people just don't want to let go of Motorhead, and they shouldn't. And neither do we. Me and Phil are working hard on Lemmy's dream, basically, being in the studio and seeing how hard Lemmy had to work. I mean, if me and Phil put in 120%, he had to put in 250%.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in heavy metal legend Mikkey Dee of Motorhead, Scorpions, King Diamond, many things. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I got a little bit of a cold over here in Sweden, and it's the first cold I have since in 3 years. I haven't even had a runny nose in 3 years. So yeah, I'm like a little baby here right now.
Well, I appreciate you making the time and drink your drink, and I don't want to tax you too much, but I am very excited to talk to you about the deluxe edition of Bad Magic, seriously Bad Magic, which is out now on your label Silver Linings Records. And I went back and I listened to all of Bad Magic a few times, and I was like, man, this record, in addition, it's great to have a reissue and all these cool things that come with the deluxe edition, which I highly recommend diehard fans and everybody else go get. But I think it's really cool to revisit this record. It has been almost 7-8 years since it came out, and I know you only really played the one song live, but this record was really held up for me. And I know it wasn't made in the best situations with Lem's health and everything, but this record's awesome, man. I forgot how much I loved it.
Well, this album was recorded live by the three of us, and this was completely live. I mean, some songs earlier days also been recorded live, but never a full record. And the reason, as you said, we only played one song live, we always only played one or two songs from a new album. And then further down the line on tour, we got rid of that one or two songs and then took another song from the album. So we could never really play more than one or two songs because we had to fit all the classics in and stuff, even if we wanted to play more. But the last thing I said to Lemmy in Berlin before he went back to LA and I went back to Sweden was, go back to LA now, Lem, and check out what songs you think you want to do, when we meet up in January again. And we're in December now. So he said, yeah, I'll do that. Because he was a little bit about what he could play and what he thought. Some of the songs have a lot of vocal, and that could kind of exhaust him, So me and Phil said, you pick whatever you want to play, we'll do it. And but we never got that far, unfortunately. But that's how we usually did it. So we just did that first leg of the tour with that one song, and then we were going to change for sure.
Of course. And in addition to the, reliving Bad Magic, which again, I said it really holds up for me. We have some unreleased songs that had the covers record with Heroes, and the band has done a lot of great covers over the years. And then these two unreleased songs that are really great and even surprising, I think. Greedy Bastards is just brilliant. I think it really, not that that's uncommon, Lem could do anything. Motorhead could be anything, as much of a rock and roll band as it is, but I really love this very pointed protest song, like a very, stick it to the man.
Well,
and I love
it's a song that is actually in time, I mean, I love the sentence, you want your kids to wear a mask to school, you know what I mean? I mean, we opposed these fucking masks in Sweden here big time. We never had anything like what you guys went through, and most of the world, we just did not believe in that, and I'm so happy about that. Then you can think whatever you want about it. Healthy people should not walk around with a mask. That's my belief. If you feel sick, yes, of course, but to force young kids to go to school with a mask, it's the most ridiculous thing I heard in these days. But anyway, it's a very, very good release, good package, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit you read some of these comments on some of these. I don't know if they're real fans or not. I have to say that it kind of pissed me off a little bit because they go, "Well, Lemmy's turning in his grave. You guys are only making money of this and shit." I mean, there's no fucking money in this. We try to do a quality item to prolong the Motorhead legacy, and to give our real fans an option to pick up, as you said, it's the live show and a couple of new releases, and it's a great packaging. So, it has nothing to do with money. So that kind of hurts you a little bit and piss you off, actually, that some people take it that way because we're just doing this for our fans. They love to collect this and they love to hear something. And look at me right now. I'm doing more interviews now than in a long time. So, we just want to continue Lemmy's legacy and Lemmy's and Motorhead as a band, because I feel it big time out there that people just don't want to let go of Motorhead, and they shouldn't. And neither do we. Me and Phil are working hard on Lemmy's dream, basically, and and with a release like this, because the album, as you said, was a great record, and it was the last record. And being in the studio and seeing how hard Lemmy had to work. I mean, if me and Phil put in 120%, he had to put in 250%, So I think it's a good thing to release this. And everybody has an option. If you think it's so fucking bad, don't buy it. You know what I mean? Don't spend your well-earned money, that's fine with us. But there is a lot of people out there that appreciate something like this. And that's why we're doing it, For us to make money on this, forget about it. And there's no money in records. And I think most people know that today, But it does prolong the legend Motorhead. We move it a little bit forward. And I just think it's a great thing, I have to say that because it does piss me off a little bit when people are so aggressive. Not that I really care at all, but you do feel it when your attention is completely different than what some idiots believe it is, that kind of. So that's a little chance that we have to kind of correct that. So I would like just to put that in.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm sorry that anybody made you feel that way. Just personally, as a fan, I love reissues. I love the vinyl. I love buying things now. I was a little kid when Bomber came out. Bomber is still my favorite Motorhead album. I was stoked to buy the 40th anniversary version with the vinyl and the deluxe booklet and all these photos of the old trio back in the day. And I really love it. It's one of my favorite things that I own. And it came with a print. You can't see it because it's behind my monitor, but there's the picture of Lemmy that came with it that's numbered, and it's meaningful to me. I will tell you this, I'm sure, I can't even imagine what you guys went through losing him. As a fan of just metal and rock and music in general, the loss of Lemmy to me has been the hardest, loss of my musical life, of a person I was a fan of.
All this we talk about right now creates stirs up a lot of feelings. I understand that, and it should, because Lemmy had such an effect on people, and in the music industry, as a personal, as just as a man, and for us in the band as well. I totally buy that. But with that said, you got to give it a shot sometimes, and chill out and see what it is. Like we released these lost tapes, these live recordings, and it's great packaging. It's a great little gift. You know what I mean? It's has nothing to do with try to make a bunch of money. We never with Motorhead ever saw the money deal, and that also kind of can put a little dampen on things, is that the real fans know that because we never sold out. We never compromised. We never sold out. We could have sold out and compromised the shit out of Motorhead and made a lot of more money while we were fully active. But we didn't. We never did. And that was never an issue. So our real fans know this, and that's for whom we do this. And the rest of them can just basically, see you later, alligator. We don't fucking care about these idiots, But there you have it. Enough about that, I guess.
Yeah, you got to tune out the haters, of course, and I'm sure Lemmy also never cared what anybody said about him or his art and his
No.
music. But
Oh.
I'm glad you mentioned Phil, because I kind of wanted to ask about the process. Obviously, everybody knows Motorhead's legendary manager Todd Singerman is involved with these projects and Silver Lining Music. But I wanted to ask, like, at what level, like, for Bullet in Your Head, what are, and Greedy Bastards, like, what is the process? Do you and Phil get to have approval on these things, like what goes out, what we get to hear?
Absolutely. I mean, nothing comes out without our approval, just to have that said. And there we go again. I have to kind of expand a little bit on that, because over all the years with Motorhead, we kind of, in the end now, we were a great family, and that's not just the band. It circles around us. People that work with us and for us, kind of been handpicked over the years. So it's a great family, and it's still very, very active. No matter what people moved on to do, this is the family, And with that said, that means that everything that's being done in the name of Motorhead is very, very selectively thought through and gone through so many filters, if you will, that is this okay to do? Is this what we should do? Is this good enough? Is this quality? Is this something we would have done, the three of us, when we were fully playing big time? And all this is in consideration when we do anything, So this is not a record company that are pumping out stuff for money or just taking advantage of the fact that Motorhead is still very, very popular. So that's how it works. And me and Phil are absolutely involved in every little thing that's going to be released, or new ideas or whatever. And that's great. Phil's doing great. I talk to him all the time. And we talk in between, within this circle of trust, the family, like, and I love it. It's still there, and that's why we're doing this. I mean, it's to keep the Motorhead era going, and when we have a chance then to release 2 unreleased songs, here we are, like 8 years since Lemmy. I mean, it's incredible. It's going up on, it's 7 years since he passed away, and if you ask me, it's, I don't know, time's flying, So I think it's great. And we have an opportunity of talking and explaining all this stuff for you guys, and the press is very, very interested in everything. So it's fantastic. I think it's totally just a win-win situation. And then, of course, you have these morons, but forget about them. We don't really care. And they're not very many. But it's kind of.
No, man. Motorhead's name is written in permanence in rock history. Nobody's gonna mess with that. I will say it was really cool to hear Lem's voice on the Greedy Bastards track, and I know there's a whole interview with him on vinyl. That's a treat also, right, for fans. It's like seeing a photo of a long lost relative. It's like, wow, listen to his voice. I haven't heard his voice. I've seen Motorhead a bunch of times. I got to photograph the band a bunch of times as a concert photographer and a journalist, and to me, anybody that, if you're not a fan, you're not a fan, fine. That you could say that about a lot of music. But if you're a fan, I think this is going to be a must buy you know, this is going to be a must purchase along with the classic stuff. This is, I think, the best of the more modern Motorhead stuff. Certainly the era of you've been in, you made countless great records with the band. I wanted to ask if you had just a personal favorite Motorhead song or drum part that you personally love playing. If you could go back in your history in your mind and pick one
Well,
out.
that varies. It's a good question because I get that question very often, and what I answer is that varies from tour to tour. Exact. I mean, if we did a 3 months tour in US, I had one particular song that felt fantastic to play, and I thought we played it better than ever, and it was fun to play. Then we have a week off, and we start in Europe, and it's a completely different song, and I barely enjoy the song that were my favorite for 3 months. So that varies all the time. But when it came to the records, when we first hooked up for real on the Bastards record, when I was involved with all the writing, that's the first album where I wrote, we wrote all together, and Bastards, Sacrifice, two great albums. They were very hard, I thought. And we kind of moved Motorhead into a little different road than where they were before. And good or bad, I don't know, but I was a different drummer than Taylor, and we had a different band, and we were just moving along and took us to a different level. I don't say it was a better level or a worse level, just a different level. And we did the best we could, of course, and we had a different vibe in the band. Lemmy was happy as a clam, and so was Phil and Mercer, and so was I. So we did great there. And then we came into the mid 90s, more later 90s, where things were pretty tough in the hard rock world. A lot of bands kind of went off the radar, and album sales went down on across the board. We don't know why. I think streaming started getting more popular, and so on and so on. And then a lot of shit happened in the US with the 9/11 a little later on. And it was some little bit dark at times. And then when Cameron Webb picked us up, and we decided to go with Cameron, I believe 2005 wasn't that the first record. 2000. I mean, we were already working at 2004, if I remember right. And then Cameron took us to a completely different level. The records that he did with us are a total step up, sound wise and performing wise as well. Because I remember it was like yesterday, me, Lemmy, and Todd had a meeting in LA with Cameron Webb. And he was a young kid. And we sat around for a quick dinner at the Sunset Marquee, I believe. I remember, oh my God, Lemmy's gonna chew him up for breakfast. This guy. And but we liked him a lot, and we wanted to give him a shot. And he was tough as nails in the studio. I mean, he started with me. Mickey, I thought you were a decent drummer, but you kind of suck here on this take, man. And I was sitting there like an owl going, what the hell did I just hear? Because we were used to totally run the ship. And suddenly here's a young boy that came in and helped us perform in an amazing way, and it wasn't, and he did the right thing, because he did not come into the studio and say, I know how Motorhead is going to sound. Because a few guys did that. And I can tell you, they were out before we had a bite of a fucking sub sandwich. You know what I mean? They were out the door. Because we knew how Motorhead was going to sound. What we needed was another person, he or she, to just help us create our vision. And that's what Cameron did. He then later when Lemmy was doing vocals, he go, Lem, no, Lem, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, it sounds great. I'm happy with that take. I'm not happy with that take. It's terrible. You can do much better. And I mean, I remember Phil literally, he was almost flipping out about Cameron. He did not like him at all in the beginning. And then he turned out to be our best buddy, of course, you know, because it took us some time to get used to his way of working. And that's the exact way for a band like Motorhead that you come in and take charge, not to tell us that, especially Lemmy, that I know how you are going to sound. Well, I'm sure you do, but I know how I'm going to sound, you know. So that's why it worked so well with Cameron, and that's why these albums, in my opinion, took off to a completely different level. They just took Motorhead where I would love to have been already in the mid '90s. You know, well, he managed to get that more humph to our sound instead of just mid range and high end. You know, and yes, that was Motorhead, but without changing Lemmy's sound too much. And Lemmy was happy as hell. He had his bass sound, but he managed to collaborate and get us to sound a little bit more modern, if you will, or more beefy. And the performance that we played on these records were great, you know.
Indeed. I was about to say that thank you for sharing all that. I think what really stands out to me, like you said, the sound overall, the mixing, and also I think he got a lot out of Lemmy vocally because you started to get like harmonies and things. I know that sounds crazy, but you know, there are subtle harmonies on a lot of those later records where you know, Lemmy was doubling himself and doing really cool things that really made the songs pop a little more, not just a wall of sound. Like, you know, I photographed the band live. I stood right in front of Lemmy and got pummeled by the bass amp and, you know, deafened if I didn't have my earplugs in. But, you know, the records are very rich sounding.
You know, when you put one of those records in comparable to some of the older stuff that we did and they did earlier years, this is really a fist in your face, you know, because we did get complaints over sometimes. People wanted to crank this in the car and shit, and it was just too thin, you know, there was no power in it. We had to move on a little bit and move slightly forward. And I thought Cameron managed to do that in steps. And so it was great. And, you know, a lot of people that were trying to work with us, they were intimidated by this sweet man, Lemmy Kilmister, you know, he intimidated people. And he knew that he did that. So sometimes he took advantage of the fact that people were almost scared sometimes. And he's the nicest man. He was the nicest man in the world, you know. So, but Cameron was not intimidated. He said, "Look, Lemmy, I'm here to do a good job for you, and you know, you got to help me to do that." And he told me the same thing. He said, "Mickey, I'm not here to work against you. Don't be a bitch, you know. Don't, you know. I'm here to help you. Okay, so let's make this happen." Because I could do a drum track, and I thought, man, that is it. It's kicking ass. And I come into the control room. All right, what song do you guys want to do now? What should we pick up now? You go, what are you talking about? We're not even, you haven't even, this is not even a demo version. You know what I mean? And I try to tell him, I can't play better than this. I'm sure you can. And he was right. You know, he took us that little extra. And same with Lemmy's melodies, Lemmy's lyrics. Well, he didn't interrupt too much with the lyrics because the lyrics were pretty much perfect from day one. But sometimes all three of us could be a little lazy in the studio and think that this is good enough. Like every musician, I would say, after a while, you kind of go, this is good enough because you are being a little blinded of your own stuff. And he is an outsider. He could hear completely, no, 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 that's just not good enough. That's why I think these records took us to another level. And with Bad Magic, we said we're going to try to record this live. And that was not easy because Lemmy was not in the best shape. We had some great days and we had some less good days. There was never any bad days, but sometimes he was tired, and sometimes we just never got something done because of, maybe not just because of Lemmy, of course, but we would just. It's tough to record live again, like we used to do in the very, very early days. People don't do that anymore. Same with the Scorpion record, Rock Believer now, it's all live and it's great. But we had the pandemic years here to work on this record. And but it takes too long time normally, and it's too expensive, and it's very hard. So, but I'm glad that Bad Magic got recorded live, and it turned out the way it is.
That's amazing. And I'll just say one last thing about Cameron. I've never seen his balls, but they must be enormous to challenge you and pick on you. But also, a lot of I respect tremendously that guys who have had 30, 40, 50-year careers in rock and roll trust a guy to come in and be a partner, a collaborator, and trust him to push you to get the best out of you, even in that what ended up being the last record. I think that's really
Well,
says a lot
it,
about you guys.
you see that trust has to be earned. You know, you cannot take trust for granted. You have to earn trust everywhere. And Cameron was smart enough to know that. He knew that it don't matter if I'm a gold medalist in producing and recording. It means nothing to these three guys. And he was right. It doesn't matter if he comes in like Michael Phelps, with gold medals clinging around his neck. It does not matter. It means nothing to us. He has to earn that on his own, and that he did very, very quick, because we felt a good vibe immediately. And Lemmy trusted Cameron with everything. Every release we done, live stuff, give it to Cameron, give it to Cameron. Cameron can fix this. Cameron can do this. And he's right. He was right, and we were right. So we're very, very grateful to get another baby family member into the group, when we did. And Cameron belonged in this family, as I was talking about. He's one of these guys and girls out there that are this circle of trust. I love that expression. But and then you are going to create good stuff with these kind of people around you, people that walk a mile for you, because an extra mile, because you walk a mile. And Lemmy was that type of person that he included everyone all the time, and he was furious if it was unfairness. And for instance, the crew never got the perfect treatment everywhere all the time. We make it rock and they make it roll. It's very simple as that. And that's how he was, and that's how we were as a band. And then you work very nice with these folks around you, and that's a great thing to have. And that's what we've tried to prolong here all the time. give our real fans, give our family, give the whole Motorhead era a long, long lasting life. I mean, when we're all gone, we hope 50 years after that, that people still say, hey, listen, there was a band called Motorhead, and they were something out of the ordinary. And that's what we're doing right now.
Right on. I want to give you back the rest of your day. I'm gonna wrap this up with you in a second, but I just as a final question, obviously, Seriously Bad Magic just came out, and there's also a live album that's wonderful and a great document of that time. I love it opens up. Lemmy says, "In case you forgot, we're Motorhead and we still play rock and roll," which I thought was great. And I don't know off the top of your head if if there are more tracks out there for future releases, or is this kind of the end of the well of
Well, we,
unreleased material?
we never really recorded a lot of extra material. I know that, but I'm sure there might be something. But we were not that type of band that recorded or wrote maybe 16, 18 songs for a 11, 12, 13 song album, because we released so many records. It was almost every other year. So when we were done with 12 songs that we liked, we said, fuck it, that's it, we're done. We love these 12 songs. This is the album. Then sometimes we had some time, extra time, and we did some covers, as you know, and we did record some of the stuff that might be available, but nothing I can talk about or actually know about sitting here in Sweden having a terrible cold. But I hope we do, because I'm sure we recorded a lot of cool stuff. Not a lot, but some stuff on the side that we could maybe work with, because when we were in the studio, we were very, very active and very focused, and got stuff done. Things got done. I've been doing a few podcasts, and unfortunately, I have to mention this as well. I did a few podcasts. They were great, from Canada the other day, but I saw in Blabbermouth and in the press, it says Mickey says Motorhead will never, ever, ever, ever tour again as Motorhead. And I go, that's not really what I said at all. We will never replace Lemmy and tour with Motorhead. That's impossible. I have to correct this, because they take it out of context and a sentence, and it shocks the world, that we were even thinking about doing that. Of course not. But what I did say was that we do tribute stuff, and same thing there as with the albums. I just did 2 Motorhead shows, as I call it, Mickey D with friends, this past weekend. And people love to hear these old classics, but that's not Motorhead. And we will never go, hey, we replaced Lemmy with this guy, and now we're Motorhead again. That's what I meant. And so I'd just like to correct that. But it has to be done with respect and full taste, the fingertip feel with what we do, because it stirs up feelings, of course. And we never ever thought about something like that, but both me and Phil are playing Motorhead classics with other musicians, but it's not the band Motorhead. And that also creates interest. As I said, I announced one Saturday, for that Saturday, that I was going to do this with 2 younger guys that are super cool. And that show sold out in less than a week. We had to add on the Sunday, because people wanted to hear these classics. And I think it's a great thing, but never ever replace Lemmy. That's a joke, because I also saw a few idiots going, "Are you crazy? Did you even think about that?" Blah blah blah. And they go, "Fuck off, man! No way." it's almost comedy to hear these guys, you know.
Right. Anything that can be and we're a news website as well as interviews. So I understand that things get taken out of context. We try to be careful. You know, sometimes you get corrected. I don't want to give these guys any more ammunition, but I'm compelled to ask one last question, which is obviously Judas Priest got in the Hall of Fame, Black Sabbath is in the Hall of Fame, Metallica is in the Hall of Fame. I don't love the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I would love for Motorhead to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Of course, Iron Maiden belongs there. Scorpions is there. Like or there should be. I would like Motorhead to be in. How do you feel about if Motorhead was ever nominated or inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
We were nominated, if you remember, years back.
Okay, yeah.
Who beat us that year? I don't remember, but oh, absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous that both Motorhead and Scorpions from 1965 been inspiring the world with fantastic songs and fantastic performance for such a long time. Are not there yet, but I'm convinced that both bands will be in by one point. You know, other than if not, it's like saying, "Hey, Beatles was not a real band," and Stones, yeah, well, it's it's shit. That's ridiculous. You know, it's. I'm sure, and if not this year, next year, or so, it has to be inducted. And I say the same for Scorpions. Now coming from the Scorpion camp and played with these great guys for a number of years. Time's flying. I mean, I can't believe it. It's so long already. But same thing there, you know. Such an amazing band to tour with and play with and record with, and are not in there. And I will not mention any other bands that I think maybe should not be in there, but at least not before these two bands. There got to be some fairness of it, you know.
I agree. I think whenever a discussion comes up about any kind of Hall of Fame for anything, you're either an automatic lock, and if you have to argue about it, they don't deserve it. And Motorhead, to me, unquestionably should be in some. I'm sure that I know there's a heavy metal Hall of Fame, definitely already in there. You should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I hope it happens for you soon.
I think so, because Lemmy did not care much about awards and competitions within music and all that. He really didn't believe in that. I mean, some award shows we went to where we got given an award, and of course Lemmy got it and he said, "Oh, just take it. I don't care," you know. But when we won a Grammy, I saw the proudness of in his face. He was very proud. And it doesn't mean much, but it does mean that you are being respected in a way that you should, you know. It doesn't mean that you're better or worse than any other band. But look at what these two bands, Scorpions, Motorhead, what we've been doing, you know. What have we been doing? Who have we been inspiring? I mean, if you talk to any young bands, both these bands have inspired so many thousands of bands. And that's enough by itself, I'd say, you know. And
Indeed.
release many records that are groundbreaking in music. So I'm convinced that both Motorhead and Scorpions will be inducted at one point. And I cannot see any other way, to tell you the truth.
Right on. Thanks for answering that. Congratulations, by the way, on everything with Scorpions. We were so busy talking about Motorhead stuff, which is a real joy for me. We have not had time to talk about Scorpions, but maybe next time. Congrats on everything with that Rock Believer World Tours, everything. It's great to see you up there with them. And just once again, thanks again for helping make Seriously Bad Magic happen. Congrats to the whole team, Phil, yourself, everybody. And just thanks for hanging out with Ghost Cult. I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Feel better. Take care.
Cheers.